In this video, we're going to be reviewing what is ATP. So as we discussed as well before break, ATP is going to equal our energy sources, okay? So energy that your cells need comes indirectly from the food you eat, all right? What that means is that ATP is a molecule that transfers energy from the breakdown of molecules in food to cell processes. So we get this energy release when you eat food. Now, there are two main ways that organisms get their food. We have autotrophs and heterotrophs, all right? Autotrophs, we talked about, automatically make their own food. They use light energy from the sun to produce their own food in a process known as photosynthesis. Then we have heterotrophs. This is what we are. We obtain energy from the food that we eat. We must consume another organism to get our energy. There are two main organelles found in our cells that are used to obtain this energy. We have one, a chloroplast, and two, a mitochondria. Starting with our chloroplast, all right, this is found only in plant cells because it's a site of photosynthesis. So this organelle, this chloroplast, is used by autotrophs to change energy from the sun into energy as sugar, our glucose, which in our equation is our C6H12O6. Then our mitochondria is very important. This is the site of cellular respiration, okay, for us, our breathing. The mitochondria is used by both autotrophs and heterotrophs to change that sugar, that glucose, into energy that the cell can use, right? So plants and animals both go through cellular respiration. Okay, so moving on. Our ATP molecule stands for adenosine triphosphate. All right, so that adenosine is coming from our base, adenine. Then we have a sugar, 5-carbon sugar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is ribose. Remember, anything that ends in an ose, O-S-E, is a sugar. And then triphosphate. That means we have 3 phosphates on here. 1, 2, and 3. The energy carried by ATP is released when this third phosphate group is removed from the molecule by a chemical reaction. When the phosphate group is removed, the energy is released, and ATP is converted into a molecule called adenosine diphosphate, because then you're only left with those 2 phosphate groups, all right? So this bond here between the second and third phosphate group are very important, this high energy bond. When that bond is broken, that is when our energy is released between the second and third phosphate group. Now, as we've talked about our water cycle, our carbon cycle, all right, ATP is also in a cycle. So we start off with our ATP. That second and third phosphate bond is broken, so we're losing a phosphate. The energy is released for cell work. And we end up with ADP, which has 2 phosphates. You eat some food, all right, so energy is taken in from food. You're adding a phosphate back to this group, which gives us ATP again. So the main thing to remember here is that energy is released when this second and third bond are broken. That is very important. If you know nothing else about ATP, you need to know that the second and third phosphate, the bond that holds them together, is a high energy bond, and when it breaks, that is when our energy is released. That's how you get your boost of energy, okay? So is when we lose this phosphate that you release energy, and then when you eat, you're going from that ADP of the 2 phosphates back to ATP, because when you eat, you're adding a phosphate group in based on the food that you eat.